I knew that Steph would become best of friends, although you are totally different temperamental. Somebody, amen, Sue needed a best friend that would calm her. She needed somebody to bring her in. She needed somebody that when she was on 10, they would be on 10, but she didn't know they was on 10. They had to take their 10 and just... And I've never seen Elder Steph out of character. Always a lady. In her home, she's a lady. She comes from good stock. Great mother. Great father. And she is very dear. She is just she's above average in her medical knowledge. So unassuming. Such profoundness in her, and so unassuming. So give me the last seat, and don't even invite me to the front seat. I'm grateful that the Lord sent you this way. Grateful for our friendship, for your love and for your care, and for all of the medical knowledge that you helped through all of my medical. She gives advice. I don't want to hear it. Don't drink the Red Bull. Don't drink the 5 pounds. She follows through and she follows up. I'm so grateful. Licensed in our church. Great name. She's still trying to figure out. Lord have mercy. She is so instrumental in raising 2 of my godchildren. So instrumental. We all know she loves them dearly, Justin and Jasmine. And Justin can do no wrong. Brenda and Ron will cut Justin's ear off, and they'll cut his ear off, and Steph will come right around and sew his ear, put some iodine and sew his ear on, and say, let's go, I'll get you a new ear. Steph, you're just incredible. You are incredible. And it's my honor, my privilege to present the mouthpiece of God for such a time as this in celebrating the 24th Pastoral anniversary. Isn't it good that the leader can sit and be fed by people who he is feeding? With our take doors open, our hearts tuned toward God, and our ears tuned to hear what God has to say. GFG, our very own. Let's put our hands together.
Hallelujah. That rock is Jesus. He's the one. He's the one. Giving honor to God. Happy anniversary, Bishop. And I want to thank you. And I know there were times, there were things you didn't want to do, and you know God told you to do it. And I want to thank you for thinking out of the box. And as one of the female preachers here in the Cathedral of Greater Freedom, we thank you. You allow us to go forth. You allow us to support us and you guide us, and we thank you for that. We thank you for having a fine arts ministry. Who would ever thought that you would have baptized every last one of your members? We thank you for that. And we thank you for being available for our families, our pets, our dogs, our frogs, and even our frenemies. There's none like you, God. There's none like you, Bishop. There's none like you. We thank you and we love you. And happy 24th anniversary. To my Greater Freedom family, it's so good to see you all out this morning. God bless you. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. The scripture will be coming from Job. The first chapter. I will be reading from the Message Bible, but you can follow through Job, the first chapter. It will be the 1st, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th and 22nd verses. Now, God, hide me behind the cross. I thank you and I praise you for this moment, God. Not of my will, God, but of your will. Lord, I pray now that you will let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Again, Job, the first chapter. I will be reading from the Message Bible. You can follow along. Verses 1, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 22. And it reads on this wise. One day, when the angels came to report to God, Satan, who was the designated accuser, came along with them. God singled out Satan and said, "What have you been up to?" Satan answered God, going here and there, checking things out on earth. God said to Satan, "Have you noticed my friend Job? There's none quite like him, honest and true to his word, totally devoted to God and hating evil." Satan retorted, "So do you think Job does all of that out of the goodness of his heart? Why, no one ever had it so good. You pamper him like a pet. You make sure nothing bad ever happens to him or his family or his possessions. You bless everything he does. He can't lose." Verse 11, "But what do you think would happen if you reached down and took away everything that is his? He'll curse you right to your face, that's what." Verse 12, God replied, "We'll see. Go ahead. Do what you want with him. Just don't hurt him." Then Satan left the presence of God. Verse 22, the concluding verse, "Not once through all this did Job sin. Not once did he blame God." And may God add a blessing to the reading of his word. And I just want you to present to you for a thought. Have you considered? Have you considered? You may be seated. I believe that there is an old saying that refers somewhat to either the burning or the itching of your ears. And it signifies that someone is talking about you. It's good to hear that someone has mentioned your name, and usually you want that reference to mean something good. But more than often, the opposite usually happens. Our name somehow gets in the middle of some nonsense, some craziness, and sometimes it's just not nice. Now, what if God may have mentioned your name to Satan this morning? The story of Job is not new. It's a story of what happened when God said unto Satan, "Hast thou considered my servant Job?" The book of Job wrestles with an ongoing question and a debate. If God is so loving, and if he's so wise, and if he's so wonderful, and if he's so good, why does he permit a truly righteous man like Job to suffer? We all have been there at one time or another in our life, going through the unimaginable, going through crazy stuff, and we're screaming, "God, where are you? God, why are you allowing this thing to happen to me?" Like Job, we're tried and tested. And Job had to go through several tests. They said they were 5. His family was destroyed, his fortune was destroyed, and the last thing, it was a battle upon his health and on his body. Now, the purpose of writing Job, it helps us to understand that Satan cannot bring financial and physical destruction upon us unless it is given permission by God. God has power over what Satan can and cannot do to us. Now, it's beyond our human capability and ability to understand why we have to suffer, why we have to go through the things we have to go through. But just know, the wicked will receive their just due. We cannot always blame suffering and sin on our lifestyles. Suffering sometimes may be allowed in our lives to purify us. Sometimes it's allowed just to put us through that test. Sometimes it's allowed to just teach us a thing or two. And sometimes it's just to strengthen our spirit. God will, and you must realize and know, he will remain more than enough. He will be the one that will remain at your side. He deserves and he requests our praise in all circumstances. So no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, you need to believe God and believe that He deserves the praise. He created us. Jeremiah 5 said, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. So when you are going through these things and you think you can't make it, all you have to do is think about your Creator. He created you. He knows exactly what He put in you so you'll be able to tolerate the drama. Now, Job lost his cattle, all worthy possessions, his family members, and his own body was struck with sickness. We can compare that today to losing probably our homes, our jobs, the decrease in value of maybe your 401 or your 403, possibly even divorce, death of a loved one, and your personal experience with your own illness and disease. Yes. Now, we can't leave out Job's three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. Hypocrites. We all have those. No matter what we going in, the minute we lose our job, what did you do? The minute we don't have no money, what happened? They're always looking to find out, what did you do so wrong that all of this tragedy has confronted you? And that's exactly what Job's friends were doing to him. His wife, his own wife, tried to persuade him to curse God and die. And sometimes it's the closest ones to us that we're depending on to support us, that we're depending on to keep us, will be the one that'll say, just give up. Because they don't understand what you're going through. This is the time when you need to totally depend and lean on God. The name of this book is often attributed to suffering, but we need to reconsider that God's sovereignty is all in this book. He's omnipotent, He's omnipresent, and He's omniscient God. This book presents many key lessons on the suffering of the righteous person. Ultimately, it teaches that one must submit to the wisdom of the Creator. After all that had happened to Job, he endured the test. After all, if you read the story towards the end, he gained double. He gained more riches. He gained more cattle. He had more children, and God even blessed him with more years of life. Only because he was faithful. Job praised him. He said, though he slay me, I will trust him. He also had the nerve to say, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Because Job was able to handle the $50 correctly, God blessed him with 5,000. God just wants you to see, what will you do when it's your time of trouble? God wants to see, what will you do and how will you act? The scripture in Matthew 25 says, he said, Lord, unto him, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. The book of Job reminds me that there is a warfare going on. There's a battle going on concerning us. Now, does the enemy get scared when you wake up in the morning, or does he say, oh, that's just Stephanie? When you wake up in the morning, you say, thank God I'm alive. Thank God for another day. Thank God I can move my limbs. Thank God I got my right mind. That's when the enemy used to say, oh, she's up. Even though I struck her body and she's still praising me. Oh, I gave her another day and she's praising me. There's a battle going on. And the battle concerns us. Usually, we don't know nothing about it. And oftentimes we wonder why God is allowing these crazy things to happen in our life. And we question and we doubt God's goodness without seeing the big picture. The book of Job teaches us to trust God under all and every circumstance. We must trust God when we think we understand, and we must trust God especially when we don't understand. The psalmist says, as for God, his way is perfect. The Lord's word is flawless. He shields all who takes refuge in him. Hast thou considered and put your name there? We have to remember, God knew Job's heart. And he knew that he was faithful, and he was solid, and he was blameless. If God's ways are perfect, then we must trust whatever he does and whatever he allows is also perfect. This may not make any sense to us, but our minds are not God's mind. It is true that we can't expect to understand God's mind perfectly, because he says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours. There's an old hymn says that I will trust in the Lord until I die. I will trust in the Lord until I die. One day God said to Satan, have you considered GFG? You know the church is going under construction. Where are they going to go? You know the church may have to have a temporary location. Where will they go? Well, we are at our temporary location. And guess what, Satan? We have an auditorium full of saints. Guess what, Satan? We've got drums. Guess what, Satan? We got a keyboard. Guess what, Satan? We have our deacons and deaconesses. Guess what, Satan? We have all our members here. And guess what? GFG, did you even consider that you would have communion in a school auditorium? Bishop, I know you're worried about this decision. I know this past year hasn't been easy for you. And you might have even wondered whether God said, have you considered Bishop Whitaker? But Bishop, you have been faithful. You have been faithful. You have been faithful. Know that there is no good thing he will withhold from you. And he will give you your heart's desire. We are here in 23 because he's preparing something for us just a few blocks down the road. You'll be. He has his hands on you. He has his hands on you. Those of you that went to this school a few years ago, I'm pretty sure it's maybe about, 30, maybe 40 years later. This is not a school play. This is not an assembly. Right. But we're sitting here in church and we're praising God. Have you considered the path that God took you, brought you right back here? Have you considered? Did you even imagine that if you hadn't experienced that thing, and you know what that thing is, that it was preparing you for this thing, for this today, and for this now? God was just grooming you. God was just pruning you. What happened to you yesterday was preparing you for today. That night in jail or those nights in jail were grooming you and preparing you for today. That bad relationship was preparing you for that better relationship. That pregnancy you kept is because that child was blessing someone today and now. Think back on those days of sweat, blood, tears, and struggling. You know God more today than you did back then. You have a reason to praise God because of what you went through. You can look back and see how he kept you. Because if you did not go through some of the things that you went through, you wouldn't know God today the way you know God. You wouldn't know him as a keeper. You wouldn't know him as a deliverer. You wouldn't know him as a provider. Have you considered those situations have become your testimony today? He has provided for you. He has kept you. And he has directed you. As Mother Gill would say, consider it done, that being confident of this thing, that he has begun a good work in you and will carry it to the completion until the day of Jesus Christ. Consider it done, that I consider that the present sufferings are not worthy to be compared with the glory that will be revealed in us. Consider it done, for I know the plans I have for you, saith the Lord, that they are plans for good and not disaster, to give you a future and a hope. Consider it done, that is the same God that will take care of me will supply all your needs in glory. Consider it done, that his grace is sufficient for us. Consider it done, for the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ. Consider it done. Free gift. Have you considered?